Alright, so we're working on the cereal box project just for getting going, and we'll actually set up your work documents next week, but I did want to illustrate it a little bit. I mean, just for getting going in Illustrator, we're just going to do a new document, and just for today I just want to demonstrate a little bit about using the 3D stuff in here. So I'm just going to set it up on a letter size document. I prefer to set stuff up in inches rather than picas or points or millimeters or centimeters. Sometimes it's intuitive and good to set it up in pixels. So the size that you're working at is going to be the resolution of the graphics that you're generating. But just for the sake of familiarity, I'm going to do it in inches for now. Okay, and there's my workspace. I like to use a lot of hotkeys, Control plus and minus. As I'm in my interface right here, Control plus and minus is going to move me backwards and forward. Control 0 is going to just center my workspace. On a Mac, that's going to be Command. You're just going to use the Command key instead of the Control key. Let's see. So let's say I wanted to make some little simple 3D little squiggle things that are going to be the cereal that I work with. A couple of tools I can work with. One tool can be the pencil. So let's say I've got a X. Why do I have an X through my pencil? I still have an X through my pencil. Is there something wrong with my layer? No, my layer is fine. Okay, but that's bothering me. Why do I have... Why do I have an X through my pencil? It's saying I can't draw. Alright, I'll come back to that, but I'm just going to use my pen tool. So right now I'm just drawing a basic sort of shape. If I want to draw another one, I have to click off first and go back to this tool. I can draw another shape. Okay, I can't, for whatever reason, I don't know why this pencil is not wanting to just let me do a raw object, but I can click on an object and then adjust the shape that I drew with my pen tool. I can shape it a little bit, do something a little bit different. Be aware that right now, this object, this line that I have here, it's only got a black outline, a black stroke color. I could give that different stroke colors, any of those colors there, but it's going to look very strange if I actually give it a fill color. As you're working with these shapes, you can, if you want to, turn on the fill color for effect, but for the most part, you're going to want to have a slash. That means none. It's going to look very weird if you actually turn on that fill color. The fill color works best with a complete shape, with a shape that's all the way around. So let's say I wanted to let's say I wanted to go ahead and do some 3D renderings of these objects. I'm going to copy them. Okay, and to do a 3D rendering of this object here, that's an effect command. So I'm going to go to 3D, and these are my basic 3D effects that I can do. And the one I'm most interested in terms of you guys creating a variety of serial type objects is going to be rotate. And what I'm going to get is this preview screen here that lets me see the orientation of the 3D object. Right now there's no preview, so I'm going to turn on preview, and then the that looks like nothing. Wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm telling you all the right stuff. I may not be. Oh, I'm not telling you the right stuff. Forget rotate. Use revolve. Okay, forget rotate. Okay, so again, I'm going to turn on preview. That's better. And I get a shape. And that shape is an active shape. If I adjust it here, it gets adjusted there. You've also got a couple of things that you can do with shading. You've got a couple of things that you can do with lighting. You know, you can put multiple light source on the object. That little deal right there will let me place another light source. I can increase the brightness of that light source. You know, so you can do some different things right there. But let's say I'm going to do OK for that object right there. That's very dark. I can't really see it. So what I'm going to do, it works better, these extrusions, actually, if you get a light color and let, see, I can get more of a sense of form with a light color because the software is going to shade it for you. But that could be a weird shape in your serial. But like I said, we want to get a variety of shapes. So let's say that object right there, I'm going to copy it. Okay, and then let's say I want to get a different sort of shape. The computer still thinks of this as just this line. That line just has a rendered form on it. If I were to go to outline view, you know, the actual vector is only just that line right there. And that's just Control Y or Command Y. But once I go back here with my pencil on that selected object, if I want it to change that shape a little bit, so what I want you guys to figure out, one of the things you're going to have to figure out is how to make a bowl. You're going to have to figure out how to make a cereal bowl for these to go into. And then even after you draw it, I want you to realize we can go back to basics. Let me show you how to flatten one of these. After you flatten it, you can't do anything else to it. You can do a couple of things, but for the most part, you can't do any more 3D manipulation to it. So this object here, I want to flatten it. Let's say I like the shape it is, I like the color it is, and I just don't want to do any more 3D manipulation on it. That's an object command. Then I go to expand appearance. But now notice the vectors. You can actually see the vectors of the object. If I go to outline view, you know, it's a totally different object now. It's flattened. But let's say I want to continue working with this one. So if I want to continue working with this one, make some actual adjustments to it, objects in a vector environment. A vector environment is what you call an object-oriented environment. Objects can have properties, so you can always go back and adjust those properties. Where you go to adjust those properties in Illustrator is in the Appearance palette right here. And here I can see all of the properties of that object. And that single, simple little line has a 3D revolve effects on it. So if I want to continue to manipulate that, I'm going to click that, and that brings me back to this dialog box right here. And my preview turned off, so I can turn that back on. And again, I can reposition my 3D object now. And as you guys are thinking about your composition, how you want your bowl to fit into what you're doing, this is where you're going to be able to figure that out, how to get that bowl to be the shape that you need it to be. So let's say I'm going to let this remain in this attitude, you know, at that angle right there. So I'm going to do OK. But I want to redraw this to give it a little bit more depth, you know, like a bowl. Who wants to eat a little cereal? I mean, you want to, like, pour more than you think you can possibly eat, you know, so it'll get soggy at the bottom. And okay, so, but I want to make this bowl deeper, so I'm going to go right there and see what this does. But you get the point. You guys are going to have to make a lot of different objects. But let's go beyond this. Let's say you want some really strange objects. Let's look at some of the other things Illustrator can do. Let's say I get that shape right there. Let's go to Object, Path, Add, wait. Maybe it's under Effect. Now, distort and transform. Under distort and transform, zigzag. And you always want to hit preview. Right, do OK. And then let's try to 3D evolve that object and see what we get. So I'm going to go to Effect, 3D. Let's try Revolve. Hit Preview, stand back. And then I've got something going on. You know, I could move it. Notice the computer's moving a little bit slower. You know, as you start messing with these weirder shapes, the computer has to process it. So be aware of that. Every time you goof around, see where it's having to render that? Every time you goof around with these more complex objects, after you get it where you want it and you can use it, go ahead and expand appearance. You know, smash it and expand its appearance. That's going to, and that's a very interesting shape to me right there. But even still, maybe I get my pencil, and a good friend of mine is willy-nilly. You know, I just do something willy-nilly, see what maybe it's going to create. But again, see, this is goofing up the computer. So after it does this, I'm going to go ahead and flatten this object. Okay. And that's going to make everything a little bit, and that's not a great object, I would say, but it's a good illustration of what will happen very quickly in this software if you get too many rendered objects. So I'm going to expand its appearance, and that's actually a lot easier for the computer to deal with. Once it's like that, you know, I could make multiples, and it's going to be very easy. But once you get a couple of different things to work with, to fill your cereal bowl. You know, it's going to be pretty simple, pretty quick to actually fill your cereal bowl with weird shapes. But what's some other ways you can approach making objects? I've got a simple object right there. I can also warp shapes. You know, so I can get very, you know, strange sort of forms like that. And that's actually a complete shape. So let's see what that does when I do a 3D revolve on it. You know, that might be a better idea for making a bowl or something like that. But even still, after I do that, let's see what happens if I and that's going to actually give you a little bit of control over how you're generating the shape that you're making. And again, after you make it and you think it's something you might want to work with, just flatten it out. You know, at that point, you could, you know, maybe come back and color it later. One more thing, your text elements. I don't know, cereal bowlers. Whoops.